Important rulers at events in the ancient history of Karnataka. Karnataka has had an eventful history. It has been ruled by many kingdoms who brought many changes in the socio-cultural life of the state. Of course, there were battles, conquests and defeats. We will look into the rules of the kingdoms and their rulers such as the Chalukyas, Rashtrakutas, Sevunas and Hoysalas during various periods. The Chalukyas of Badami. The Chalukyas of Badami brought the whole of Karnataka under a single rule. They are also remembered for their contributions in the field of art and architecture. Their monuments are concentrated at Badami, Nagaral, Aihole and many places in Andhra Pradesh. They are both rock cut and structural, with wonderful structures wrought in hard red sandstone. Their Shiggaon copper plates speak of 14 tanks in Haveri district. The Chalukyan Empire included not only the whole of Karnataka and Maharashtra, but a greater part of Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Andhra and also parts of Orissa and Tamil Nadu. The first great prince of the dynasty was Pulakeshi I, who built the great fort of Badami and performed the Ashwamedha Yagna, that is horse sacrifice. This has been elucidated in his Badami cliff inscription of 543 AD after subduing many rulers including the Kadambas. His grandson Pulakeshin II built a vast empire which extended from Narmada to the Kaveri. In the east, he overthrew the Vishnu Kundins and appointed his younger brother Vishnuvardhana as the viceroy of Vengi. This prince founded the eastern Chalukya dynasty which ruled for 5 centuries in Andhra. A later prince of this Vengi line called Kulottunga even succeeded to the Chola throne in 1070 AD. Harsha of Kanauj was defeated by Pulakeshin II. The Chalukyan army has been called Karnata Bala and described as invincible in contemporary inscriptions. He exchanged embassies with Persia and the Chinese pilgrim Huan Zhang, who visited his court. Ultimately, the Pallavas conquered Badami in 642 AD after defeating Pulakeshin II's army. His Aihole inscription, a prashasti composed by his court poet Ravi Kirti in 634 AD, eulogizes the political campaigns of Pulakeshi II in glorious terms. It also refers to the poet Kalidasa of early times. Later, his son Vikram Aditya reconquered the Chalukyan capital and reorganized his father's empire and restored the fame of the army Karnata Bala as invincible. Vikram Aditya I's son, Vinay Aditya, defeated the ruler of Kanauj, who claimed to be the paramount lord of the north. The Arabs who had conquered Sindh under the leadership of Muhammad Kazim tried to make inroads into the Deccan, but they were defeated by the Chalukya dynasty in South Gujarat called Avani Jashraya Pulakesh in 739 AD. Vikram Aditya II defeated the Pallavas and entered the Pallava capital Kanchi victoriously. His queens Loka Mahadevi and Trailokya Mahadevi built the Virupaksha and Mallikarjuna temples at Pattadakal to commemorate this victory. But the Chalukyan power was weakened in the long run by its frequent wars with the Pallavas and ultimately dismembered during Kirtivarma II's regime in 757 AD. The Rashtrakutas of Malkhed. In 753, Danti Durga, a feudatory chieftain of the Rashtrakuta origin, overthrew the Chalukyan king Kirtivarman II and his family inherited the fortunes of the Chalukyas. He claims that he did this by defeating the Karnata Bala of the Chalukyas, which were described as invincible in those days. We owe the engraving of the celebrated monolithic Kailasa temple at Ellora, which is now in Maharashtra, to Danti Durga's uncle, Krishna I. Krishna I's son, Dhruva, crossed the Narmada and after defeating the celebrated princes like Vatsaraja of the Gurjara Pratihara family and Dharmapala, the Gauda king of Bengal, extracted tribute from the ruler of Kanauj, which was the seat of India's paramountcy. His son Govinda III also repeated the feat when he defeated Nagabhata II, the Gurjara Pratihara and Dharmapala of Bengal and again extracted tribute from the kings of Kanauj. The achievements of the Chalukyas of Badami and Rashtrakutas by defeating the rulers of Kanauj have made the name of their era the Age of the Imperial Kanauj a misnomer. Instead, it should be called the Age of the Imperial Karnataka, as Dr. Suryanta Kamath rightly points out. Amogavarsha Nripatunga the renowned son of Govinda III, had to face the threat of the eastern Vengi Chalukyas, who challenged his very existence. But he succeeded in subduing them after defeating Vengi Chalukya Vijayaditya II at Vinagavalli. He was a peace-loving monarch who used matrimony as one of the weapons in diplomacy. Although he killed as many as 6 contemporary political potentates who created trouble for him. Amogavarsha patronized scholarship and great Jaina savants like Veerasena, Jinasena, Gunabhadra, grammarian Shaktayana and mathematician Mahavira, who adorned his court. Adi Purana and commentaries on the Shatkhandagamas called as Dhavala, Jayadhavala and Mahadhavala written in his court were the great Jaina works of all India importance. Kaviraja Marga, the first extant Kannada work, is of his times, composed by his court poet Sri Vijaya in 850 AD. His great-grandson Indra III even captured Kannauj and held it under his control for 2 years. One of his feudatories, Arikesari of Vemulavada, patronized Sanskrit writer Somadeva and the famous early Kannada poet Pampa. Rashtrakuta Krishna III subdued the Cholas in the south and established a pillar of victory at Rameswaram. In fact, the so-called age of Imperial Kannauj in Indian history was the age of Imperial Karnataka, when the prowess of the Kannadiga was felt all over India. Soldiers from Karnataka were employed by the Pala rulers of Bengal. One such Kannada warrior founded the Sena dynasty of Bengal and the other Karnataka dynasty of Mithila, which is the modern Tirhat in Bihar. The Rashtrakutas sponsored the engraving of many Hindu rock-cut temples on the Buddhist model like the Dashavatara shrine at Ellora, the Jogeshwara near Bombay and the one at the Elephanta Islands. The Rashtrakutas constructed many tanks and temples at Shrivala, Sulepet, Gadikeshwar, Adaki, Sedam, Handarki, Moga and many other places. The Chalukyas of Badami and the Rashtrakutas popularized animal husbandry by donating cows in the thousands. The stones commemorating such grants, known as Gosa Sakkalu, are seen all over. The Chalukyas of Kalyana. The Chalukyas of Kalyana were the scions of the Badami Chalukyas. They overthrew the Rashtrakutas in 973 and Taila II, who was the first ruler of the dynasty. Later, they defeated the Chola rulers like Uttama and Rajaraja I and killed Paramara Munja of Dhara. His son Satyashraya patronized the great Kannada poet Ranna. Someshwara I, who was Satyashraya's grandnephew, succeeded in resisting the efforts of the Cholas to subdue Karnataka and made Kalyana as his new capital, which is the modern Basava Kalyana in Bidar district. The Chola king Rajadiraja was killed by him at Kuppam in 1054 AD. His son Vikramaditya VI, called as the lord of more than 1,000 inscriptions, started the Vikramasaka Samvatsara on his coronation. He was celebrated in history as the patron of the great jurist Vigyaneshwara. He wrote Mitakshara, a standard work on Hindu law, and the emperor has been immortalized by the poet Bilhana. Bilhana chose his patron as the hero for his Sanskrit work, known as Vikram Ankadeva Charitam. Vikramaditya defeated the Paramaras of central India thrice and even plundered their capital Dhara once. In the south, he captured Kanchi from the Cholas in 1085 AD and conquered Vengi in 1093. One of his commanders, Mahadeva, built the Mahadeva temple at Ittagi in Koppal district. It is one of the finest Chalukyan monuments, eulogized in an inscription as Devalaya Chakravarti. His son Someshwara III, a great scholar, has compiled Manasollasa, a Sanskrit encyclopedia, and Vikram Anka Bhyudayam. It is a poem in which his father is the hero. Manasollasa, a great work of multi-dimensions, has 100 sections discussing various aspects of human activity like the cultural conditions in South India, administration, medicine, architecture, painting, jewelry, cookery, dance, music, sports, etc. The Kalachuris, who were also the feudatories or descendants of the Chalukyas, overthrew the then Chalukyas and captured Kalyana in 1162. Bijjala, who was the first emperor of the dynasty, was the grandson of Vikramaditya VI, who patronized Basaveshwara, the celebrated Virashaiva religious leader. Basaveshwara rebelled against the Vedic traditions. The Hoysalas and the Sevunas of Devagiri encroached upon the Chalukyan territory and finally divided Karnataka between themselves. The representative carving of the measuring rods used during this period are being discovered on the temples at Dambala, Kodikop, Bhairapura and Shirasagi. The great Sanskrit writers like Vadiraja, Ranna, Durgasemma and Nayasena lived in their times. The Veerashaiva movement saw the advent of Vachana literature in Kannada, initiated by Jedara Dasimayya and Kembhavi Boganna. Veerashaivism preached equality of men, tried to emancipate women and stressed on the importance of bread and labor concept by calling it as Kayaka for worshipping God. Sevunas of Devagiri. The Sevunas or the Yadavas, who were the feudatories of both the Rashtrakutas and the Chalukyas of Kalyana, became a sovereign power from the days of Bhillama V, who founded the new capital Devagiri, which is in modern-day Daulatabad in Maharashtra. Earlier, they ruled from Sindhinera, that is modern Sinnar near Nashik. Bhillama V captured Kalyana in 1186 and later fought with Hoysala Ballala II at Soraturu in 1190 and lost the battle. His son Jaitugi defeated Paramara Subhata Varman and killed Rudra and Mahadeva, the Kakatiya kings of Warangal. Singhana II, who was the greatest of the Sevunas, extended the Sevuna kingdom up to the Tungabhadra. But the Sevunas were defeated by the army of the Delhi Sultan in 1296, 1307 and 1318, and thus the kingdom was wiped out. Their feudatory, that is descendant Kumara Rama and his father Kampilaraya of Kampili, died fighting against the Muslims in 1327 AD. The Sevunas have become immortal in history by the writings of the famous mathematician Bhaskaracharya, who was the great writer on music Sharangadeva, and of the celebrated scholar Hemadri. Sharangadeva's work Sangeeta Ratnakara is the basis for the growth of classical music, and Vidyaranya during the 14th century wrote the Sangeeta Sara based on Sangeeta Ratnakara. The Sevunas built fine temples called Hemadpanthi structures, which are found in Maharashtra and in North Karnataka. The Hoysalas of Dwarasamudra. The Hoysalas continued the great tradition of their art-loving overlords. That is the Kalyana Chalukyas, and their fine temples are found at Beluru, Halebeedu and Somanathapura. The first great ruler of the dynasty, Vishnuvardhana, freed Gangavadi from the Cholas in 1114 AD, and in commemoration of his victory, built the celebrated Kirti Narayana temple at Talakad. He continued to patronize Jainism, and his commander, Ketamalla, built the famous Hoysaleshwara, that is the Vishnuvardhana temple at Halebeedu. Vishnuvardhana's grandson, Ballala II, defeated Sevuna Bhillama V at Soraturu in 1190. After having defeated Chalukya Someshwara IV in 1187. When the Cholas were attacked by the Pandyas in Tamil Nadu, Ballala II drove the Pandyas back and assumed the title of establisher of the Chola kingdom. Later, his son Narasimha II of the Hoysalas even secured a foothold in Tamil Nadu and Kuppam near Srirangam, which became the second capital of the Hoysalas. Ballala III, who was the last among the great Hoysalas, had to struggle hard to hold his own against the invasions of the Delhi Sultans and died while fighting against the Sultans of Madurai. Later his commanders Harihara and Bukka founded the Vijayanagara kingdom. Hoysala age saw many great Kannada poets like Rudra Bhatta, Janna, Kereya Padmarasa, Harihara and Raghavanka.